Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video to USA Forecast for today's second video. So as was on Wednesday, have a look at the weather for next week, 10 days and beyond for the United States. I shall get on with that for you in a second. Just say that the first video was our 7 AM forecast. We can have a look at the GMA seasonal model very shortly to see what that's showing. For the next 3 months. We'll cover the full autumn period for the UK and for Northern Europe. And then we'll have a 10 to 14 day this afternoon. That will include all upgraded features. So please like, share, subscribe on all our videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, let's get on with this week's USA forecast. Beginning, of course, in the tropical Atlantic Ocean. We've got 3 disturbance areas, count them, 3 of them. X there, X just there, and another one just there. Let's deal with them one by one. So this is disturbance 3 with a 20% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and a 30% chance in the next 5 days. Low chances with that one, so I think we just skip on from that and it'll just be one to keep an eye on, but I don't think we have to worry too much about that. We also have this one, which is disturbance 2. That's got a 30% chance of cyclone formation in the next 2 days, but a 70% chance in the next 5 days. So with this one, the National Hurricane Center is saying a broad trough of low pressure is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms over the central tropical Atlantic, about 1,000 miles northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Only slow development of the system is expected during the next day or so due to unfavorable upper level winds. Afterwards, environmental conditions are expected to become more conducive for development, and a tropical depression is likely to form late this week or this weekend while the system turns eastwards over central tropical Atlantic. That could well become a tropical storm. And then we've got another one just here, that's disturbance 1, with a 30% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and a 70% chance again in the next 5 days. A broad area of low pressure expected to form over the western Caribbean Sea in a couple of days from a tropical wave currently located over the central Caribbean Sea. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for development, and a tropical depression is likely to form later this week or this weekend while the system moves northwards over the northwestern Caribbean Sea near or across the Yucatan Peninsula or Mexico and into the western Gulf of Mexico by Sunday. Getting into the Gulf of Mexico, that could be heading to the United States. Let's have a look at the GFS, see what that's forecasting for these storms. So this is looking at the tropical Atlantic mean sea level pressure and anomaly. This is the east coast of the United States just here. That's Florida, Gulf of Mexico just there. We've got the Caribbean through here. Of course, this is the tropical Atlantic, and then of course we've got Africa over there. Right, let's see what's going to happen then. So we run through and we can see that we get through to Friday. So we've got that system just there, not really doing a great deal. We've got the area of low pressure just there. That's probably a tropical storm by then, moving towards Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula. And that other system is somewhere around there, I think. Right, let's see what happens after that then. So there's the low just there that could form a tropical storm in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. But more impactfully is this one just here. So this is Saturday, moving in towards the Gulf of Mexico. Definitely looks like a tropical storm by that point. Let's carry on running through and see what happens. So that system just there, just going nowhere fast in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. Nothing too much to worry about, but look at this. We have got a developing tropical storm, probably by this point, Category 1 hurricane, moving northwards into the Gulf of Mexico. It looks like that's heading for the States, doesn't it? Let's have a look, see what happens after that. Yes, it is heading for that Gulf Coast, so as we get through to the beginning of next week, there we are, we've got a hurricane, 953 millibars. That's definitely down to hurricane status by this point, moving on to the Gulf Coast, somewhere very, very close to Texas. So a very, very significant impact there. There's also this storm just here, but again, it's just stuck in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. But definitely that one. So going back to here on this chart, it's this one that's the one to watch for the States. That one probably just going to meander around in the Atlantic and may not be all that impactful, although there are sort of islands that it might impact, but it doesn't look like that's going to impact the United States. But this one looks like it's going to do something a little bit like that, potentially. So that is going to be the one to watch for the Gulf Coast. Right, so we run on into the early part of next week. That hurricane moves inland into the southern part of the states. Looks like it's very close to Texas or over eastern parts of Texas at that point, weakening rapidly as it does so, of course. Behind it, looks like things are going rather quieter. At that point in the tropics. There are more disturbance areas though, so this is by the end next week. This is the 3rd of September. There's another disturbance area just there getting going. Another one again around there in the Caribbean Sea. So let's see what happens right at the very end of this GFS run. So does anything else pop off and develop? Let's have a look. Yes, there's another one developing. This one just here, as we get through to the 10th of September, right at the end of a GFS midnight run at this point. But there is clearly another storm that's developing there in the Caribbean and moving north. That's moving north in towards Cuba, and that might have Florida's name on it. So yes, very active period coming up over the next week or two. There could well be an impact early next week for the Gulf Coast of the United States, and yeah, so things are progressing on. We expect this to be a big hurricane season, and things are really ramping up now. So it's all to be revealed what's going to happen. But if you're on that Gulf Coast, you're watching this from the Gulf Coast, and Florida, southeastern parts of the states, watch out. We are reaching peak hurricane season. It's going to be a big peak, I think. So look after yourselves and keep a very close eye on what the weather's doing. Right, more widely in America, this is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are. We're going to look at Philadelphia today. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Philadelphia, the capital of Pennsylvania, of course. So over the next week, it's going to be pretty warm. They're actually quite hot for Philadelphia. As we go through the first week of September, it looks like there's going to be a cool down back close to average, which will still be quite warm at this time of year. Early September, still will be very, very warm for many parts of northern and eastern America, but not as hot as it's going to be for these final days, final week or so of August. It does look quite wet as well, so the next couple of days are going to be relatively dry, but from like the end of the week and weekend onwards, it looks like things are getting much more unsettled, and that carries on through the first week of September as well. There are some very big precipitation spikes in there. That precipitation spike just there, another one just there. So I think that's going to be down to thunderstorms and some very volatile weather potentially coming up for northern and midwestern and eastern parts of America over the next week or so. Temperature anomalies on the 25th of August to the 2nd of September is going to be generally warmer than average in most areas. So it is a warm week coming up. It's a little bit cooler towards the Pacific Northwest. You see, very close to the Pacific coast, a little bit cooler there. And these Gulf coasts, you know, they're a little bit cooler as well, these Gulf Coast states. And that's going to be down to what happens next week, I assume. And you can see this on the precipitation anomaly as well. This is from 25th of August, 2nd of September. Many western parts of America looking very dry, although interestingly in the southwest it is a little bit wet, like Arizona and southern California looking quite wet, which is a little bit unusual, probably due to tropical elements within the Pacific as well, I would have thought. More eastern and northeast parts of America looking more unsettled, though the eastern seaboard itself looks relatively dry. And notice down here on the Gulf Coast, it does look very wet through there, especially like eastern Texas. So just around here, and again, that is going to be down to that potential hurricane moving on to the Gulf Coast through the early part of next week. Not only brings severe winds, but also copious amounts of rain. So this is how the current setup is looking across the United States today. So we've got relatively high pressure in these eastern areas. That's keeping things pretty dry there. There is a trough of low pressure that's trying to dig in from Canada into the north and will become a little bit more successful in doing so in the next few days. More about that in a second. Otherwise, most parts of America are looking hot. So these are how the upper air temperatures look today. So really hot, of course, still baking hot down in the southwestern corner. Quite warm in the northwest, but not anywhere near as hot as it was earlier on in the summer. The heat does extend through the Midwest in towards the east as well. So it is a pretty hot scene through most parts of America at the moment. Now, as we go through to the end of week, very little change really, but getting into the weekend, then we start to see this tropical storm and or potential hurricane moving northwards through the Gulf of Mexico. Look what happens with this. Yes, it does really develop on this GFS run into a very, very significant system. I do not know what the central pressure of that is. We're going to be very close to like 950 millibars. I would have thought that looks like a hurricane that's heading into the Gulf Coast there through the early part of next week. This is on Monday. Same time, but the north pressure is weakening as well. We've got this area of low pressure digging in from Canada. That will be bringing increasing risk of thunderstorms to both midwestern and northeastern states, and cooler air then will start to dig in from Canada as well. Out in the west, looks pretty slack with not a great deal going on. So there is a direct impact by that hurricane on the Gulf Coast as we get through the early part of next week. It's moving northwards here from the Gulf Coast, weakening as it does so, but again bringing very, very significant wind impacts and also copious amounts of rain. Same time, a low pressure over Canada is digging in cooler air to the north and to the northeast, and that will be bringing the risk of thunderstorms and then cooler air and a drop in temperature, probably turning showery in the northwest as well. There is another system here that's another tropical system from the Pacific that looks like it's affecting southern parts of the far southwest of America as well. That could well bring some heavy showers of thunderstorms northwards, perhaps into some parts of California if it gets far enough north to do so. Right, so through to the middle part of next week, that system begins to fade away. The hurricane begins to fade away over Texas, but will still be bringing heavy rain at that point. At the same time, a ridge starts to build down from Canada into the north and to the northeast. That probably settles things down, but will be quite cool. Looks like turning increasingly unsettled and cooler out to the northwest as well. So you see gradually with time as we're going going through the charts, it looks like things are gradually, for those northern states anyway, beginning to get that little bit more unsettled and, dare I say it, slightly more autumnal or fall-like. Day 10 is the 4th of September. By this point, we've got a ridge back in over the east again, putting up hotter air from the south into these midwestern and eastern states, out to the northwest, looking a little bit cool and showy. That's how the upper air temperatures look at day 10. So it is turning warmer across these east states, but not excessively so. Probably no better than average, really, under that ridge of high pressure. Hottest weather is out in the west, so through the Rocky Mountain states, then going down into the southwest, still looking really hot there. It is cooler to the northwest, especially close to the Pacific coast. In more extended range, we get this area of low pressure pushing through the northern states. Again, that will bring further rain and possibly thunderstorms and another drop in temperature from Canada into these northern and perhaps midwestern states as that low pressure pushes through. So that becomes quite a major feature in the northeast, and that does pull in much cooler air from Canada into those northeast states. So autumn is knocking on the door, fall is knocking on the door for the far north and northeastern parts of America at time. Not continuous, it'll wax away, and there will be pushes of heat from the south as well, but very typical for the time of year. Things will start to turn more volatile, there will start to be more rain and thunderstorms, and we will start to see the temperatures dropping at times before warmer air comes back again. So that's how we're looking to get towards the end of the GFS run. So clearly we've pushed much cooler air in from the north, as this ridge builds in. That'll be quite a cool ridge by the 10th of September here in the north. That will be a pretty cool area of high pressure. Possibly even bring some very early season frost to the very, very far northern part of America. There's another tropical system moving northwards through Cuba or onto Cuba as we get through to the 10th of September. That could be going northwards towards Florida. It's a very long way out, of course. Then that's how your prayer temperatures look at the end of the GFS run. Definitely quite cool under that ridge in these northeastern parts of America after the earlier northerly. Still really hot as we go out into these western and southwestern states. This is how the ECM is looking. This is how the Euro looks. So all very similar at the moment. Most parts of the state's quite hot at the moment. That carries on into the weekend. As we get into the early part of next week, we find this low digging in from the north, bringing heavy showers and thunderstorms into the Midwest and the northern states, and a drop in temperature from Canada as well. At the same time, yes, the ECM is also showing this system in the Gulf of Mexico, moving northwards to the Gulf Coast, again, quite possibly bring the risk of severe wind impacts and also copious amounts of rain. As usual, the ECM does not wind this up, does not develop this system as much as like the GFS does, but we know from the past that it's probably underplaying the strength of this tropical storm or hurricane. It will probably be stronger than this as it makes impact on the Gulf Coast where it is through the early part of next week. At the same time, pressure weakens further north and the low pressure digs in from Canada, bringing heavy showers of thunderstorms into these northern and northeast states and a drop in temperature as well. Through to the middle of next week, looking quite cool, showery, maybe thundery for these northern, northeastern states. There's the tropical storm hurricane sort of moving inland into the southern part of America and weakening as it does so. Quite cool and showery out to the northwestern part of America as well. And then heading up towards day 10, that's how we look. So generally the hottest weather at this point is like in the far southwestern part of America, but northwest is a little bit cool and showery. A ridge is building in from Canada from these midwestern and northeastern states and is probably settling things down a little bit, but is quite cool with that ridge of high pressure at that point. That's how the upper air temperatures look. It's relatively cool in this northeastern corner. Not overly hot for the time of year, really, in much of the east. Just about average, probably. The hottest temperatures are out in the west. Right, let's just have a look at CFSV2 then and see how things are looking. So these are 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take from 24th, 30th of August. The coming week we'll have this ridge receding towards the northeast. There is a ridge in the Pacific as well. Otherwise, relatively weak pressure moving eastwards through these northern states. Of course, what it doesn't show is what's going on in the tropics. We get through to week 2, which is 31st of August, 6th of September. The ridge generally has pushed a long way northwards, so this area is probably going to be quite unsettled actually with some sort of trough. Week 3 will be the 7th to the 13th of September, ridge out to the northwest, a trough in the Midwest and the northeast could bring some quite unsettled conditions through there. And then week 4 is going to be the 14th to 20th of September, a ridge appears through there, probably quite a coolish ridge if that I would have thought. The high pressure is also pulling back well into the Pacific, allowing low pressure perhaps to dig in through the western part of America. Temperature anomalies for week 1 are looking like this. It's the 24th to 30th of August. So cool away to the north and northwest, hot in the northeast and cooler down means in the southern states. Week 2 is the 31st of August, 6th of September. So quite warm in the east, cooler through the central areas and then hot again out in the west. Week 3 will be the 7th to the 13th of September. So hot then in the northwest, another surge of heat perhaps pushing up the western side. Cool through many of the breadbasket states and through towards the east as well perhaps. And then week 4 is the 14th to 20th of September. Warm in the north and cool in the south. Precipitation wise, we look like this: 24th, 30th of August, so quite wet in the north, drier out to the west. And this area just here, from the Gulf Coast from the Gulf of Mexico up to the Gulf Coast, probably being impacted by that tropical disturbance. Just looking quite unsettled into week 2, 31st of August, 6th of September, just generally looking quite wet. Most parts of America, a little bit dry perhaps to the far northeast and to the far northwest. And then week 4 is the 7th to 13th of September. Again, generally quite wet. Many of these southern, eastern, and southeast states could be tropical elements involved in that. Of course, drier in the northern states. Bit of a change as we get through into week 4, 14th to 20th of September. Drier in the east and also in the southeast. Wetter perhaps out in the west. That's all to be revealed, but I think of course the main story is going to be that potential for a hurricane to move onto the Gulf Coast from the Gulf of Mexico through the early part of next week. So that's going to be the big talking point for the states through the beginning of next week. And further north, just generally a bit of a cool down and turning more unsettled and potentially a bit thundery for those northern and northeastern states as we find autumn, starting to begin to knock at the door for the northern states and up into Canada. Right, so a lot to keep an eye on with these hurricanes and whatnot. So yeah, if you're on that Gulf Coast, keep an eye on what the forecast is doing and watch your space because things could be about to get really lively. We'll be back later on, or I'll be back later on with a look at the JMA seasonal model for the UK and for Northern Europe as well. That's coming up in a few minutes. And after that, we're going to have, early this afternoon, our 10 to 14 day that will include all of the regular features. This week's USA forecast, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.